Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. The topic is construction defects, bad and ugly, and I eliminated the good because I don't think there's anything good about it. Uh, as usual in our webinars, we're offering a money back guarantee. So if you didn't learn anything, you do not learn anything from this webinar, we'll gladly refund your money. Just email us and let us know that you didn't learn anything. No questions asked, okay? Uh, we're good people. I want to introduce you to our co-host, Martin Pea. He's the IT back-end, front-end, right-hand, left-hand man. And he's going to be monitoring things, making sure everything works smoothly. Also, he's going to be serving virtual coffee and pastries. So put in your order and hopefully he'll get to you. The last webinar, I think he forgot, but that's okay. Um, this is a picture of me. I like this photo better than the one with the suit because I never wear suits. And just a little bit about me. Um, I work as an expert witness as well as a construction engineer. Expert witness, been on probably over a couple hundred cases involving different kinds of construction defects. Also, I've been an expert witness for DCCA RICO, Regulators Industries Complaints Office for the state of Hawaii. And basically, the role was to inspect conditions by contractors that was allegedly defective. Okay, so I was involved in ADR, alternative dispute resolution, concerning mediation, arbitration cases, and also litigation cases. So a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today is actually firsthand experience based on years of doing this type of expert witness work. Okay, so basically the series of Ask the Building Expert webinar series was created to help building owners, association owners, property managers, board members, realtors, and anyone else who has an interest in this topic or the topics of our webinars. And we have about 24 webinars we're giving this year. If you have any ideas for future topics, just let us know and we'll be happy to include them in the future if we can fit it in. Okay, this webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection, which is a company that I own, and they're basically financing these webinars. Now, let me go over the Zoom webinar features. It's not like a Zoom meeting where you can see everyone's photos and everyone gets to talk. The way this webinar is structured is that basically I'm the only one speaking, but I don't want to not answer your questions. So there's a Q&A function that you can use by going into your bar, and it's going to be either on the top of your screen if you have a PC, or on the bottom of your screen if you have a Mac. And you can go in the Q&A section and type in your questions. Now, if you want to ask your question live, there's a raise hand icon. You click that on, Martin will know to invite you in and open up your microphone so you can ask your questions live. I prefer live questions, but if you just want to type it in, that's fine too. Okay. Also, if your microphone is unmuted when it's time to talk, double check your menu and unmute so we can hear your questions. Okay. And by the way, I welcome all your questions. This is Ask the Expert, Ask the Building Expert. So now's your time to ask. You have a live expert here. So take advantage of the situation. And not only that, I get paid by the hour. So go ahead and ask away. So What is a construction defect? Well, basically, it's any type of failure that causes damage. Now, you may not see the damage, but it could be there. Okay, so basically, in a nutshell, that's what the definition is. Now, there's an expanded definition. Basically, it's a problem with a building which leads to a failure of some form or causing damage to either people or property. Okay, there's two types of defects. One is a patent defect where it's obvious, you can see it, it's known, readily observable. Example, holes in a drywall, you can see that. Okay, that's pretty obvious. The other type is what's called a latent defect, which conditions are not readily observable. They're concealed. And discovery of the defect may take years before the condition is known. And it also may take destructive testing, such as cutting open walls, ceilings, floors, to actually look at what the problem is. Okay. So what are the causes of construction defects? There's three main causes of construction defects. One is a design error. And what does that mean? Well, you have architects or engineers and a team of designers called design consultants. And they're the ones that create the plans and specifications and basically design the structure. And not everybody's perfect. There could be some errors and omissions in the design, and that may create a problem in the construction field. Okay, so for example, in the design and specs, there could be something not drawn in or drawn incorrectly. For example, you have a photo here of a chicken coop. Now, the order for the design was to design a chicken coop to fit 20 chickens. And the architect designed this coop. And if you look at it, there's no way you can fit 20 chickens in this coop. So basically, that's a design flaw. That's what we call a design error. So this is a very simple explanation, but it kind of gives you an idea. I'll give you another example. You have a high-rise condominium building with multiple units, and you got central air conditioning. The design error was that there was no access panel to get to the air conditioner if you want to replace it. So those kind of things are considered design flaws or design errors. Now, what's another cause of a defect? Defective building material. So let's say the building was designed properly and constructed properly, but there was a failure, and it was due to a defective building material. Okay, so that's a contribution to a construction defect. In this photo, you have what's considered hardboard siding, and when it gets wet, it rots. And there's different types of material, building material that are defective, such as siding, roofing, drywall, roof shingles. In this photo, the siding was so defective that the cat didn't want to eat in front of the house. So you have, like say you have roofing shingles that are defective where the minerals delaminate from the roofing paper. I had a situation where they installed solar reflective shingles and there was this white powder coating on it, and the manufacturer's rep said it will go away after 6 months. After heavy rain, it was still there, and I told him the white material is covering up the reflectivity of the shingles, so it's not working properly. So I consider it defective. Also, paint. You could put brand new paint on, but if it starts flaking, fading, or chalking within the year or two, then something was wrong with the paint. Also, if you heard of PEX, which is plastic plumbing piping, there's failure of that material, not the plastic pipe, but the metal connectors that are composed of zinc and brass material. Okay, I don't know if you heard of the Chinese drywall. That was defective too, and I don't like the name Chinese drywall because the drywall came from China. It's not Chinese. What's the other cause of construction defects? This is the biggie. Most of the defects are caused by poor workmanship. Now, as you can see from the photo, this faucet was not installed correctly. When you turn it on, the water doesn't even go into the sink. Okay, it ends up on the counter. But poor workmanship is the number one cause of construction defects. And um, most of the construction litigation claims are due to poor workmanship issues. Now, what is the term uh, good workmanship as used in construction contractors law or um, the definition? Well, there really is not a specific definition, but the courts have ruled that the workmanship that falls below the general standard of care is considered poor workmanship. So, for instance, the baseline would be what would another contractor that would have installed this building component have done any differently? Would they have done a better job? And if the majority of the answer is yes, he would have done it differently, he would have done a better job, he would have constructed it so that there was no defect here, then uh, you could consider the work poor workmanship on the part of the original contractor. Okay. Now let's talk about the top 10 most common construction defects. One is soil condition. As you know, there's areas of soil that is not good. It could be unstable soil called adobe soil, which is expansive soil. When it gets wet, it expands, and when it dries out, it contracts. So, uh, commonly known as like dry riverbed cracks. If you see this condition, that's not the ideal condition to build a house or building foundation on. The photo on the right is a building in China. I think it was 12 stories, and the foundation was not good, and the building fell over. If you look at the photo, the bottom of the screen is actually the roof of the building. Okay, so foundation issues are important. Let's talk about framing. The photo on the left, they use too many screws. And there's a legal terminology for this defect. And you want to know what it is? It's called, this condition is screwed up. Okay. The photo on the right is anchors that are embedded in a concrete foundation. And the anchors hold a sill plate, which is that horizontal piece of wood that's in contact with the concrete. And these anchors are supposed to be evenly spaced apart. In some cases, they misjudge and they lay it out incorrectly. So you got that anchor bolt too close to a 2x4 vertical wood stud. So that is a framing defect, or it's a foundation defect. Okay, so what about water infiltration conditions? Water infiltration conditions to the exterior of the building is a number one construction defect of all. If I put together a whole list of all the construction defects around in Hawaii or even in the US, the majority of them fall into the water infiltration category. Okay, so very, very important to be aware of these conditions. The photo on the right is actually a basement, and the wall had bowed in because there was too much hydrostatic pressure. And I guess this condition could be a design flaw as well as a workmanship issue. Okay, but I've seen some cases where it's a hollow tile wall and you're supposed to grout all the cells so that it's not hollow tile or hollow anymore. It's all full. And the contractor failed to do that. If you look at also, speaking of the photo on the left, maybe you don't have enough rebar in it, or the wrong size of rebar, or incorrect placement of the rebar causing the problem. But as you can see, the only way to tell is you got to demolish the wall or a section of it to inspect it and determine what the contributing factor was in the failure. Okay. If you look at the photo on the right, you can see the roof and the shingles are kind of just sliding off the roof. So it's obvious that it was a defective installation because the nails that were used to nail the shingles were not the correct size. They were too short. And that is a big problem. Now, if you had a hurricane, guarantee all the shingles would be gone, and it would be in the neighbor's yard or down the street somewhere. So when we investigate improper installation, especially on a roof, we look at the manufacturer's specified nailing pattern, the specified size of nails to use, and what type of flashing to be used, and the connection of the flashing, with the roof eave. And there's a lot of details that we look at to determine what the cause of the problem was and what the contractor should have done correctly. Some other defects: we got windows that leak, fire stopping, and insulation. Either there is none or it's improperly installed. So the photo on the right shows wall penetration. So they make holes in the drywall and they run their electrical conduits or plumbing, piping, and that kind of thing. So if you look at the hole, which is on the left, that does not have any fire stopping, and the hole on the right does. If you see that red clay looking thing around the piping, that's proper fire stopping. So you have one hole that's not fire stopped and the other one that is. Okay, we got some plumbing. We got this kind of snake situation with all these copper plumbing lines. That's not really, I don't know what the plumber was thinking. And then on electrical, you have two wires on one circuit breaker, which is a no-no. It's called double lugging. And the manufacturer of the breaker only specifies one wire to one breaker. We consider this an overload condition. Okay. Also, there's air conditioning. So you could have condenser in the wrong location, ducts that are not taped, a drain line that's not connected, or you could have improperly designed air conditioning system where you have airflow in two rooms, but you have no vents in another room. So also temperature difference. So been in cases where office building, brand new air conditioning, and then one part of the office is hot and another part is freezing, and it's just an improper balance of the air temperature. Okay, well, if you were counting, I actually gave you probably 12 top 10 or maybe more, but that was a bonus. Okay, so um, some quick tips on construction defect prevention. Now, here's where the nitty gritty comes in. So, valuable tips on construction defect prevention: review building plans, inspect before, inspect during, and inspect after. Before, during, after, that all pertains to the construction. So there's a construction progress. So you inspect before, inspect during the construction, and then you inspect after. Now, I'm not asking you to do the inspection if you're not the proper party to inspect, but your job would be to make sure that somebody inspects and make sure that person takes photos. And I've even heard situations where people take videos. Okay, this is really key because if you only inspect after, if the inspection's only done after, you're not going to know what the condition was before installation of a building component, and you're not going to know what happened during the construction phase. Okay, so basically, you're coming in after the fact, and when you come in after the fact, it's really hard. You're going to have to write out the protocol on what you need to determine what the defect was. Okay, very important. How to resolve the construction defect? Well, first you have to identify the problem, and then you have to come up with repair specs to fix the problem. And then you have to inspect the work that's completed. Now, a lot of times somebody will say, oh, this is a problem. This doesn't work, or the paint's failing. And they note that down. And then the contractor just goes in and repaints the wall or fixes the problem. So the owner has no clue of what the contractor actually did, and doesn't have a clue whether the fix was the proper fix. That's why the standard of practice here is when you identify the problem, you need to know what caused the problem and whether the contract followed the correct method or not, or is it a design issue, is it a building material issue, or is it a workmanship issue? Now, in the identification of the problem, there's several things to be aware of and to use as your reference documentation. Okay, so here's what I do when I'm hired as an expert to identify a problem. I review the plans and specs. The plans basically show what to build, and the specs show or tell you how to build it. I use the building code as a reference, building code standards. I look at the manufacturer's installation instructions or requirements. I review the ASTM guidelines. ASTM means Association or American Society of Testing and Materials, but they don't go by that. They just go by ASTM. And believe it or not, ASTM has a lot of standards and protocols. They have a whole bunch of protocol on how to test windows for leaking, either air tests or a water test. And it's amazing. Also, forensic investigation, such as destructive testing. I worked on a condo in Makiki called Iolani Palms, and had nice marble lobby on the floors and in the walls. And uh, on the wall, we installed all these mailboxes, those apartment mailboxes. And a year after people moved in, we got a report that people were, getting their mail out, and their letters were eaten up and stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is strange. Um, so I ordered I asked the contractor, did you guys use treated lumber for the framing? And he said, yeah, we did. So I said, well, something is weird. I think there's termites. And what we did was I had a contractor chip out a 1 square piece of marble and to get to the wood framing. And I used a knife and I cut a piece of wood out and sent it to a lab. And the laboratory analysis came back showing that there was no chemical at all in the wood. Therefore, the wood was not treated lumber. So I used that laboratory testing results, threw it to the contractor, and they had to spend over $100,000 redoing all the framing and use treated lumber. So in some cases, you have to go further than just look, see. You have to do laboratory testing and other kind of testing. Okay, if you haven't had fun already, we're gonna get into some actual cases. This is Ko'olani. I think it was built in 2009 or something like that. Anyway, I was a lead expert witness on the construction defect litigation. And when a litigation case is filed, a complaint's filed, normally you go to uh, the parties all go and talk story through mediation. And this one, there was both mediation and arbitration at the same time. Now, when I did my inspection, imagine doing an inspection of an entire high-rise building of this size. I mean, it takes days and days and maybe even a couple of weeks. But I had to put together a whole punch list of defective problems. And I ended up totaling it. It ended up being about 14 million in repairs. Give you an idea of some of the repairs. They had a nice tennis court, and the posts of the chain link fencing was leaning because of heavy wind. So it wasn't really designed to withstand the heavy wind. Also, there was water infiltration coming into the hallway walls from the exterior. There was PEX piping, and one important issue was their brand new swimming pool had delaminating pool tiles. And listen to this, the contractor refused to replace the tiles because they said it was due to lack of maintenance. And I got the water testing results, and they test the pool water every day, the pH balance and all that. And I had the correct pH balance of the water every single day for months and months and months. So I basically threw that at the contractor and said, it's not due to lack of maintenance. It's your guys' poor workmanship. This is the biggest class action construction defect lawsuit in Hawaii. Out at Ocean Point, they have these hurricane straps. And you probably heard this before. As you can see in the photo, the bottom part that's embedded in the concrete was corroded. And it's widely known that the material was defective. And that's what the cause of the big settlement was. And I was the lead guy in this case. The class action attorneys, the law firm was out in uh, Beverly Hills, California. So I had to fly out there to go visit them and talk about the case. So that was a very interesting trip I had. Uh, by the way, the same condition exists not only at Ocean Point, but in other, almost every other development in the Eva area, and also Mililani. Okay, so Hawaii Loa Ridge Mansion. By the way, this photo is not the actual photo because my client didn't want me to put a photo of his house. But anyway, the construction cost was about 2.5 million, and I got this call and said, "Oh, I got problems, and can you come and take a look?" So I said, "Yeah, sure." So I went up there, and it was a very expensive, nice house. But what happened was the lanais of every bedroom and the living room was at an elevation higher than the floor of the house. So every time it rained, water would water would leak in, and it would go under his sliding door tracks and end up flooding the carpet and all that. So it was a terrible design, and then not only that, all the walls were stucco. And anytime you have dissimilar materials, like you had all your window frames that was in contact directly with the stucco, there was no caulking joint between the two. So when it rained, water was getting in because when the house settled, it would crack right at that the joint between the window frame and the stucco wall. So I located probably 80 locations where there was a leak, and so it was a big claim. So I I met I met at the house with the attorney for the contractor, and the attorney said, everything happens for a reason. And I said, yeah, the reason is your client's an idiot and his work is bad. He didn't like that, so he walked away. Okay, how about Waiea? This has been in the news recently. Um, this high-rise building was completed in 2016 at a cost of $412.3 million dollars. And there's been a bunch of defective conditions that are going to be repaired at a cost of at least $100 million. So my estimation was when it's all said and done, it may end up being about 150 million. But anytime you have a situation where 25% of the cost to repair uh, compared to the cost to build the building, that's considered pretty major. And the problems that they had was windows making these popping or unusual sounds, some faulty air conditioning, and a whole bunch. If you're interested, there's actually a website called waiaarepairs.com, and you can see what the schedule is and all that. The reason why I'm telling you is it's already public record, so I'm not giving you something that's confidential. Okay, let's talk about the Millennium Tower. Now we're going outside of the Hawaii realm. Uh, I actually inspected this tower twice, and I took a photo of myself, and that's how you know I was actually there. And the other photo is a window that cracked on the 26th floor, I think. And uh, no one knows why the window cracked, but I have a good idea why it cracked because the building is settling and has been settling. So basically, the Millennium Tower is located in the financial district of San Francisco. And if you're aware of San Francisco, uh, there's a lot of, I mean, it's so close to the ocean, and there's a lot of clay and all that, even uh, on land, and um, there's bedrock that's deep under the foundation. Excuse me. The Millennium Tower was built in 2009 at a cost of 350 million. It's 58 stories, and the foundation was they drove these piles down from ground level to about 60 to 90 feet. And in 2016, there was a notice that the building settled about 16 inches and it tilted about 4 inches. And then they did another study in 2018. The building sank 18 inches and leaned about 14 inches from the top. Now, the developer claimed that the reason why they had cracking in the foundation and sinking was because the nearby uh, transit center was being built and that was causing all the problems. But that wasn't true because the Millennium Tower was settling before the transit building even started construction. So the fix on this is they're going to underpin the building and down to about 200 to 200 feet to hit bedrock at a cost of about 100 million. So basically, if you look at the uh, how they're going to mitigate the problem and correct it, it's due to, and in my opinion, that initially they didn't go farther down in the foundation. They didn't hit bedrock. So basically, the building now is kind of floating around on this substandard soil condition. So a lot of fun. I even inspected the Salesforce Tower and the Transit Center too, because they were like it's only a block away from the Millennium Tower. Okay, so we're at the question time, but before I get into the questions, our next webinar is in February, and I'm giving two. One is senior safety in the home. I'm discussing what not to do so our seniors have a safe environment. I'm covering trip and fall conditions, electrical, plumbing, stairs, smoking in the home, kitchen, and that kind of thing. And then another webinar I'm giving in February is building safety COVID-19 protocol. Then in March, I'm giving one on concrete repair, a Spalding guide, and then also another webinar, warranties in construction, which should be very interesting. So I'm having a lot of fun doing these. I hope people are learning good stuff. And I'm going to open it up now for any questions. So Martin, are you ready?
Well, I'm here. There's no questions in the Q&A, but if anybody want to ask, we can open up the mics and let them ask away.
So maybe they either got too bored and fell asleep, or they're too confused. I don't know which one.
That's good. It's good. I got a question.
Okay.
And it's probably related to construction defects, but I've got a contractor friend who's been getting a lot of jobs because there's a lot of these contractors that are starting them and don't finish, or they take a deposit and then they skip town and all that kind of stuff, and so they're not getting their projects complete. So it's a pretty costly problem to know all these people. So I'm wondering what is, I know it's not exactly construction defect, but it is, because they're not finishing the construction. It's like a workmanship issue to me. So what can they do for that kind of situations? Yeah, because it sounds like people are just getting ripped off left and right by some of these fly-by-night contractors. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because the situation is the initial contractor didn't bid correctly. So he underestimated the cost of the job or how much time it would take. So what happens is halfway through, or wherever he decides to, skip out, he determined that he's going to lose money in the job. So he'd rather just not continue because he estimated poorly. He didn't think it would cost that much, and he just was losing money and he knew that it was going to be a loser. So he just decides to dig out. But the problem is the homeowner is now stuck with having to pay a lot more to another contractor to, finish the house. So,
Exactly.
that becomes a problem. And, we don't know if the first guy was even licensed or not or qualified. I
Right.
mean, to me, if the contractor cannot finish the job, then he shouldn't be in that kind of business because he needs to continue finishing the job, even if he has to tell the owner, you added all these changes. I need to get paid for it. So
Right.
it may be that the owner was asking for too much that wasn't in the contract. So, you need to understand both sides of the situation to make a determination. So it is good for the contractor that's getting all that work. By the way, it's harder to go in as a contractor to finish someone else's bad work than to just start from scratch and do it on your own. Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. There's a question from I think it's Suzanne. It says, how do you get the owner, AIA, contractor, etc., to give you the plans and specs? What happens if they refuse to give you the information? I can also open up Suzanne's mic if you want me to.
Maybe she doesn't want to talk. I don't know.
Okay, okay. All right, got it.
Did she raise her hand?
No, she didn't. She didn't.
She's trying to be incognito. That's why.
Okay. Well, you can answer the question.
Okay, so in answer to the question, if you're the one that hired the contractor, then you should specify in the contract that the contractor or architect is required to give you a copy of those plans. If you don't, then they're going to say, well, you're not entitled to get a copy. Now, this is, normally on a single family dwelling. And if it's a recent construction, if they can't give it to you or don't want to, you can go and request a copy at the DPP, the building department. Of course, you have to pay for the copies, but that's another way to get it. Now, if you're not the owner and you're, let's say you're part of a condominium, what happens is the developer and the design team and the contractor, they're not going to give you a copy. And they don't want to because they don't want somebody to go on a witch hunt and try to find more defects and all that. And I've seen that time and time again. When I request a copy, they just say, no, we don't have it or whatever. I know that they're fibbing. And normally the way to get it is we have to go, attorney has to go file what's called a motion for production of documents, and that's part of a discovery process in litigation. So the motion for production of documents means that they get served a subpoena, and there's a whole list of documents that are requested in order for me to analyze the situation. Yeah, and so for the most part, no one wants to turn it over, and you're going to have to use legal means to get it. But if you're owner of a condominium, there should be plans already that the developer turned over to the association. And I'm giving a webinar in the future about developer transition. And in that webinar, I cover when the condo association accepts the building from the developer, they have to turn over certain documents. And one of the documents that I request is the plans and specifications. So if that wasn't done, then something is amiss. Now, if you're on the board of the association, wouldn't you want the plans to your own building? So I'm pretty sure there is, because you need the plans in order to maintain the property. You got to know what's what, especially all these brand new buildings in Kaka'ako. They're really complex. They have thousands and thousands of different building components and specialty design consideration. So if you don't have the plans, you're kind of in the dark, not knowing what's going on. So I hope that answers the question. I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear, but that's what it is. We got any other questions?
No others in the Q&A. If anybody else want to ask, go ahead, raise your hand, and we can open up your mic. Right now,
Oh, do we? The first person to register for the webinar, is he on the webinar?
Was that Adam?
Yeah.
He was here, but he looks like he had to run off to another webinar or something.
Okay. All right. So as long as he logged in, because we had a contest and we didn't tell anybody. Okay. So Adam was the first guy to register for this webinar. He actually registered before Christmas. So he won the prize. And what is the prize? Let me look for it here. Okay, so he won this book that I wrote with Brian Tracy, and it became a bestseller. So he doesn't know it, but he won this book, and I'm gonna mail it to him. I'll get his address. And so we got another contest. Okay, wow, we don't know, but I think we should have a contest where the first person that registers for the next webinar can win something. And then we have another contest where the person who attended the most webinars at the end of the year will get a prize. I think, what do you think, Martin? I think we should do that, right? Or maybe we'll do it like in 6 months. So we don't know. The people don't know how many people are attending or how many times, but that's an incentive for people to attend more webinars. I think that's good. Yeah. What do you think?
Sounds like a good idea. Yeah. You providing some real valuable information even for me. So
okay, good. So yeah, go pick up some $100 gift certificates or something and dining out. And if nobody wins, we can use it for ourselves. Okay, well,
sounds good.
If there are no more questions, then we can end the webinar. Once again, we appreciate all you guys attending. Hope you learned something. If you still want more information or you got questions, just email or give a call. I see somebody asked another question. You want to take a look?
Yeah. There's another question. Is there only one universal construction standard of practice? That's the first question. Where does the public find the standard of practice? And is there a contractor's code of ethics and authoritative agency to keep the contractors accountable to the code? Kind of relates to my question.
Wait a minute, that's 3 different questions.
Yeah, three questions.
That's not fair. They're supposed to ask only one at a time. So anyway, as far as a standard, different associations have different standards. So there's a General Contractors Association. They have their own standard. There's a American Institute of Architects. They have their own standard. There's a BIA of Hawaii that has their own standard. So basically every different contracting association has a different standard, and basically they're pretty much all the same. And it's like any other organization, like the National Association of Realtors or a bunch of associations that I belong to. Their main standards, like you have to be ethical, you have to do this, follow this, don't do that, and the standard is there. Now, with respect to the actual building code, there is building code and there are building code standards. So if you're looking at enforcing one of those standards, then you have to go to the reference source, and depends on what specific item you're looking at. Now, if it's an item like windows per se that is part of the building code, then you look on that section, and that's the reference that you use to talk to the contractor about the window problem. Or if there's a design consultant, you ask the designer, well, what code did you use for designing the window system? And then the more reference documentation you have, the better. Because when I'm expert witness, I got to go through all that, and it takes hours and hours to do the research because the building code changes every 3 years. So if a building was built in the 1990s, I can't just use today's code. I got to go back to the 1990 code to see that as a reference, because it's not fair to the contractor to use today's code if it wasn't as stringent at the time the code was in effect when the contractor first built the building. Okay. What
Well,
was the other question?
Well, the clarification was, yeah, the question is more about the code of ethics. I think it's related to what I was asking about the accountability for the contractors. Yeah, I guess the question comes down to the code of ethics and who really keeps them accountable. Yeah, who's when they're not.
Okay. I have thanks. I have something else to add. The law. Okay, there's a law, contractors licensing law, HRS 444, and then there's the Hawaii Administrative Rules. Those are the documents with the hammer. So if the contractor doesn't follow those, then they're already guilty. But the key is, if it's a workmanship issue, you're going to need an expert basically to testify and give an opinion, a professional opinion that this condition does not meet the standard of practice, does not meet the good workmanship criteria as stated in the Hawaii revised statute. So basically, you can't do it as a layperson, because if it's a litigation, the court is not going to believe you, because they're going to ask, what's your profession? Are you a building expert? And you go, well, no, I'm a real estate agent, or I'm an auto mechanic. They're going to laugh and go, no, you need to get an expert here, because we're not going to believe your testimony. And that's how this court system got so complicated. And attorneys make money, the expert witness person makes money, and a lot of times, when the case is settled, the owner doesn't get 100% whole. In other words, if the problem costs $100,000 to fix, by the time he gets his settlement, he gets $60,000 after paying the attorney and the experts and all that. So that doesn't make him whole at all, but that's just the nature of the beast we're dealing with. So any other questions?
I had to unmute myself, sorry. No, I don't see any others here. But good questions. Good question.
Yeah, excellent. So on the Q&A, I guess the questions that were there are just the ones that were previously asked.
They came up in the Q&A part. It was actually asked.
Okay, good. All right, so appreciate you guys attending the webinar. If you got any further questions, feel free to email or give me a call. Depends on the type of question. If it's too complicated, then I might have to charge you for answering. Now, you know what? That's okay. Just fire away. I'll help you out. Martin said, hey, we got to help everybody out. That's what we're here. So we're here to help. Hopefully, we'd like to invite you to the next series of webinars, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed the webinar, if you have comments, shoot us an email, and we'll be happy to listen. And we like critiques, we like ideas, and especially if you got ideas for other webinars. If you look at our website, we have a whole list of topics covered. If you don't see a topic covered in there, let us know, and we'll try to fit something in. By the way, these webinars, we're all it's all created by us. It's all our own information. We don't, go look for a book and copy stuff down. So you're hearing it from a live person who's been doing this for about 40 years so far. So take advantage while you can before Martin and I retire, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you. Goodbye.